Hello everyone, welcome to this new project. I am Ankon Ghosh and today I am going to be the instructor or the main project teacher for this specific project, that is our Spotify clone application using ReactJS, HTML and CSS. So I assume you have just known what we are going to make, actually the main Spotify application but with a web application format. So here we are going to use some many things, and we are also going to introduce with new React components, React hooks, Spotify API, and how to just enter the music players and to play music, to control the music, and everything we'll just going to learn over here in this Spotify clone application. You will also learn handling more functions, handling how to handle the more functions with a very priority and to just render it properly inside our browser. And before getting started, we have to initialize our project. So this is the very getting started module, that is we are going to do it or learn it from very zero, very scratch. So no need to just, you don't have to any prior knowledge, just you have to know about the PowerShells and how React just fundamentally works in the basics. So that is no prerequisite, vital prerequisite for that, I will say. And then to initialize the project, we will obviously have to be the npm install, that is the node obviously installed in your computer, in your system. You can just head towards the Node.js website and download the latest version. If it is not supporting in your system, you can just try and download the previous version and just go run through it. I will show you if the download is successful, how it will show, how we will check it. I will show you just everything, no need to worry about that. Also we have our npm, that is node package manager, and we will just to like to install our system globally, and then we will be familiar with the HTML, CSS, JavaScript and all this canvas writing over there. And we are going to use the React hooks too, so nothing to worry about. I will just teach you very scratch. The topics we will be discovering in this project are mainly the hooks of the React and custom hooks we will be using for this React. That is, if you are not familiar with custom hooks, I will obviously treat you well, that I will just assume that you don't know anything, you will just have a zero knowledge, so I will just treat you or teach you from that level. So no need to worry about the, we will just learn from the use hooks, React hooks and reducer hooks too, which will works mainly as a, you will just get a small idea about Redux too. And then the topics also will discovering, that is loading a media player. As you all know, that is a media player mainly plays a video or a music. So in our case we are be playing our music, so how could we just render a media player using React has its own components, Spotify provides us the own components, and may not the Spotify API be premium or neither or anything, you can just have it and do it. Well, they might have some restrictions, so no need to worry about that. I will show you how to do that. Also we are going to learn this media player, how to render it, how to control our Spotify music, and everything we are going to learn. So this is the very final result we are going to achieve in our project, that is our very beautiful login screen of user interface. You can see it is looking very nice and giving a very good vibe of the user. And you can just, and this is not only the screen we are going to use, because we have some further more screen, that is after login it will show another screen where we are going to mainly just do the stuff searching for the song. You can search song by the artist name, album name, by the song name, any keyword, just I am say any keyword you are using in your Spotify application, you will just do the same here, because they provide us that thing only, so there is nothing to worry about that. So by this way we can just search this result for the Spotify clone application, and we'll just head towards the initialization of the project. And let's get to the next module or next lecture, how to get started, how to just start from zero basic, how to just initialize the project from PowerShell, how could you just get over it only. And let's get started. So thank you for staying with us up to this, and let's head towards our next module. Good luck. Welcome everyone. So as you all know what we are going to make actually in this whole project, we are going to make the Spotify clone application, as you have seen in the presentation of the project. Now we are going to start with the project initialization, and before initialization I will make to know, to ensure you that we are going to make and we are going to learn all the React basic components and the hooks and all the things. So as you can see, I have opened this particular page for the bootstrap, that is I will use this React bootstrap, and that's why I have introduced this page for the styling of our components and our whole page structure. And we just have to install it. And also I have a bare native project built in my computer, so I will open in VS Code And as you can see, I have made two folder. One is server, and the server is because we must have needed for the backend, so that either the backend will work finally, else so that we can include the backend and call or fetch our API from the Spotify server, and then we can conclude with our project. So that's why I have introduced with the backend. And for also the client, I have included all the bare native project files in the client folder, and I will mainly start the server. So to start the server, I will open the terminal over here, and I have to change the directory into the client firstly. So before starting the server, I will make to know that you can include one thing over here, that is one extension, that is tab 9, and to basically it is used to just complete your code with the special AI that tab 9 is providing. And else you are good to go with the code. If you are not familiar using in extension, that's okay, absolutely. And also we are going to play the song with the whole lyrics applying or presenting on the screen. And also there is a thing that is I want to show you. Here is the page of the Spotify developers, that is developers.spotify.com, and here we will use all the API presentation. And before getting to the depth of our application, I want to introduce you to the very dashboard of the Spotify. You can click over the dashboard to get there, and this dashboard provides us the application's main application thing. And if you are not logged in, or you can just sign up. If you haven't done any account, so you can just sign up over here. So and I have already a account, so I will simply log in over here. It will automatically log in my account through my Gmail, or if you want to log in with Facebook, you can use any kind of authentication. And you can see I have one Spotify clone app, and it has some client ID. I have built it initially to test my application. So we can just create a new application. I will create one plus, and I will name it as Spotify clone project. So by this way, and we can give a test description, or else I can give we are making a music player with Spotify API. So by this way, we can make, and we can just check the box and create. So this will create our application over here, and it will just reload the page once. And after the page reloads, it will give this kind of interface, and you have that application status over there, that is in under development mode. And what does this mean actually is we are now developing. We haven't hosted our website or our application into any site, and this is our particular client ID which will be useful, or will absolutely working with the client ID in the API. And we have to mainly pass the client ID to the API so that we can get data from it. And firstly, I want to make you one thing to it over here, that is get to the edit settings over here, and inside the redirect URLs we have to pass the local host. Sorry, firstly you have to write https colon slash slash and then localhost clone 3000, as because this is the basic server we are going to use. And because we are going to use the development server for now, that is the localhost, so I am adding the redirect URL as this one. If we are done with the application, on we are just ready to host it in a server, then we can give that server domain name over here. Now just simply scroll and save this thing, and we are done with that. And now we have to simply head over to the docs of the developer, so understand how we can authenticate our user in this project. To authenticate a user over here in our Spotify, so firstly we have to head over to the docs. And if you hover over the docs, you can see we have coming one sub menu, and it consisting of many kind of APIs. So we are going to the web API, as we are working with the main web applications. So I will simply go a quick start over here, and it will redirect us to a Spotify web API tutorial page. And this will mainly contain all the user interface or all the APIs we actually going to work with. But firstly I will head towards this thing, that is the authorization code flow. So I will head over to there and I will make you understand that what we are going to actually need from the API to pass along. So here is a basic structure how the API will work. So as it, if it may looks very complex to you, but no need to understand it. I will simply just give you the basic requirement, and they are, here is the thing, that is the parameter we will pass. So I will firstly head over to the basic URL path. So as you can see, the redirect URL is this one, that is https accounts.spotify.com and slash authorize. So I will just hit this URL from my code or from my server, and then I have to pass these parameters. The parameters are what I will show you. Firstly, the client ID. I have shown you the client ID from the very beginning, and that client ID you have to pass. Then the response type, also the redirect URL where we are going to redirect this page, and the state, the option, the scope is optional, and the state is also optional, because you might pass this, you may not pass this, it doesn't matter. The show dialog is also, so we will just get over all the things in details while we are going into the project in depth, no matter in that thing. So we'll just one by one go into the project and do all the things. And firstly we have to set up our file, and I have to firstly start the server. So I will cd to the client, and then I will just say npm start to start our server. So by this way I will just simply start my React server, and then we are going to work with the server and then make one by one changes. So I will not clear anything over here, I will just keep it as it is until it starts the server. I will make one file over here inside our client folder, that is our main React project. I will say I will head towards the src, and here inside the src I will make one folder, that is login.js. So login.js mainly handle our authentication thing inside our application. We have started our server, and the bare React app is running in our server or in our local host. Now what we are going to do, we are going to initialize in our login.js, but we also need to install the bootstrap. So I will do the bootstrap later on. Now I will just do the RFC over here and control space to get the React syntax. And over here what I will do, I will create one constant, or this will basically hold our auth application. So by this way the auth application or the auth constant mainly hold our auth URL. So I will give auth underscore URL. So this will be the basic or main URL we are going to call for the application or the API. I will pass the whole string over here. So firstly we have to just write https clone slash slash and the Spotify dot, firstly, okay, sorry, so we have to write accounts dot spotify dot com, and then the authorization. So by this way, as I have shown you inside my Chrome browser, that is the authorization flow, I will just head back to that part, and here you can see we have to just give this part, that is accounts.spotify.com, and then authorization, and then we have to pass our parameters. So to pass our parameters I will one by one just paste all the parameters over here. So let me get back after pasting the parameters. As you can see, I have pasted the whole URL over here, and I will explain you one by one, no need to worry about. Firstly, the https accounts.spotify.com and authorization. This is basically, it will just hit that authorization part of the URL, and then we have to pass some parameters. So the parameters are starting over here. Firstly, the client ID. So I will just scroll a bit over there so that you can understand. So firstly the client ID will be passed, and then a response type, and then response type is basically the code, that is we are sending a code for the API to get a response. And then the redirect URI, basically redirect URL is to the localhost 3000, that is the app will basically redirect the user to the localhost 3000 that is in our local server after a login has been success. And then the scope of our project, and the scope is mainly the streaming and the percent 20, as you can see that thing. So the scope here is basically giving us all the scope, that is the firstly the streaming, secondly the user read email, that is it will help us, or the API will mainly hit the streaming option for Spotify. The user can read the emails or it can read private. And what does it means is that we have giving the access to our API application. Now what this percent 20 actually means is that there is a space between the read this thing and library read and the user library. So that is why we are using percent 20, so that it doesn't get crack inside our main browser. That is why we are using the percent 20. Now after this I have to pass our perfect client ID over here so that we can get the response, and then we can hit this URL properly. Now just make sure that you have just write this link perfectly or as it is, otherwise it will not obviously if you pass it through the URL in our browser. So I will give into the notes lecture over here, so don't need to worry about. I will just paste this text inside the notes lecture for this video, and what we are left with is just passing the client ID. So I will head towards my Spotify developers tool, and I will go to my dashboard and into my application where we have already seen the client ID. So into my application I will just go through the client ID and I have to copy and paste it. It's a simple way. And as we can see, I have created two applications, I have two client ID. So I will just take the recent one I have made in this video, and I will simply copy this client ID over here, and then we have to paste it inside our code editor, and just after the client ID equals sign, and we are good to go with the auth URL. Now I'll simply save it, and now we have the main function to work with our application, that is the API, that is to call or fetch the data inside our return statement or inside the export or in the. Now getting started with the depth of the application, I will just simply close the server, terminate once, and I will install the bootstrap. So I will write npm I and then the bootstrap and then react hyphen bootstrap. So this will install the npm, that is a bootstrap module for the React bootstrap. I will hit enter and I will take it or give it a time to install. And till then we'll have to import the container of the bootstrap. So I will import the container, make sure you spell it right. So I will just import the container, and from React bootstrap. So by this way it will just import the container, and we will use the container inside our application. And by this way we will use the container inside our application to enwrap all the things inside the container. And also you have to import the CSS. So for that, inside our app.js, so there we have to modify, and inside our app.js we have to import the CSS for our bootstrap. So I will write import and then bootstrap and slash dist. So this is for the CSS only, and then it will get the CSS inside this dist, and then again bootstrap. Okay, so make sure you spell it right always, otherwise it will not fetch. Bootstrap, one T will be there, and then dot CSS, and I will use the minified version, so I will give min.css. So this will basically import the bootstrap for our, or the bootstrap CSS for our application. And I will just omit the logo over here, we will not need of this logo, and I will clear this return statement. I will just get rid of this, we don't need anything else. I will save it and let the bootstrap install properly or download properly. Till then let's head over to the next lecture and get started with our project next creation. Welcome to the next lecture, and as we have installed our Bootstrap successfully, as you can see in line number 2, I have imported the CSS for Bootstrap and I have imported the minified version obviously, and our server is running. I have started the server with typing npm start. As we all know what we have to give the command, but before going into the depth of our project, I would like to introduce to something new, that is an extension in VS Code. So let's head towards the extension module over the VS Code, and I will write, or you should go install this tab 9 extension. It will be very useful to write your code more fluently, more easily, and in a faster way. As because I will definitely suggest you to install it, because tab 9 AI is a specific AI which will just monitor your guesses what you are going to write, and it will give suggestion depending on your guess, and that is what tab 9 will do, or it will lead to a more work in our project also. I will be using tab 9 AI, so you can just click on it and the verified tab 9 AI will have a tick on it, and then you can just simply install. As I have already installed, so I am just it's showing the install uninstall button only. So I will definitely suggest to install the tab 9. Now after installation of tab 9, what we can do is just head towards our folder structure, and basically we are want to get rid of these unnecessary things, because there is lot of things inside our src, that is the app.css, index css. Actually we are using bootstrap, so why we are going to use that file only, right? So we will just simply delete all the files. So I will select once the app.css, app.text.css, also the index, and okay, the index.js is necessary, and then logo, this report web vitals and setup. So I will recommend to delete all this. I have just selected everything by pressing Ctrl and clicking, and I will just shift delete, and it will delete from this source folder. And then we have to configure our index.js, as because the import statements still exist there. Okay, so we have just now three files existing in our src: one app.js, the main application, and index.js using to render the application, and the login component. So inside the index.js, we have to get rid of the unnecessary elements, that is this report vitals and the index.css, as we are not using the css because we have deleted, and the report web vitals import statement also. Now we'll save this. Our index.js is clean and clear over here. Now we will head towards our app.js. Now let's see if anything is unnecessary. Okay, the app.css, we will not need that. And then what I will do, I will just remove all the things inside this return statement, and what I have to return is that the login component obviously. So I will import the login component. How we can import? I can simply use the tab 9 and I can press enter, so it will just import the login component from login.js. So by this way the login component is being imported, but we haven't rendered it. So to render it, I will just give a login component inside our return statement, and then we have to self close it. Now the login component is being saved successfully. So let's see if anything is rendering in our website or not. So let it be reload. Okay, now we can see a login text over here, and how the login text is coming from, I will make you know, that is the div login over here. Now here comes the actual thing of the React, is that we're going to use the bootstrap container or component over here. So to use the bootstrap container, I have imported the container. Now I will use the container over here. To use the container, we have to simply get rid of this div, and I will simply write the container over here, and I will place my everything inside the container. Now inside the container, we will place mainly a button or a link which will just redirect to the auth URL. And the auth URL, as we all know, the main account or the client URL ID or the API we are passing to make the user log into his or her Spotify account before using the application. Okay, so to make that, I will just create anchor tag over here, and the anchor tag will mainly named as login, and I will press the login with Spotify. Let's say the name on the button will be there. Now it haven't just anything we have done with the thing. Now we have to make it or give it a class or styling. So for that we will use the bootstrap classes only. Now the bootstrap class we are going to use is that inside our anchor tag I will pass the class name. So the class name will be a normal bootstrap button class name. So I will select class name over here and I will go. The class name first for a button is obviously we all know the btn class, which will make our anchor tag as a button, but we are going to make it as button success so that we can get a success button for the bootstrap. Also I will give a class of button lg, that is large button, and by this way we can render this login component inside our browser. So let's see if it is showing or not. It will just take a second to refresh inside the browser, and as you can see the login with Spotify button is showing over here, and we have to align it perfectly inside our whole screen. Perfectly align the components, we have to give class name for our container also. Now I will give class name to our container. Let's say the first class name. Now make sure you don't write class, because if you are familiar with the normal HTML syntax of writing CSS, we don't use that thing over here inside our ReactJS. So I will give the class name firstly as dflex, which will give the direction as flex, and then the justify, then content as center, because it will align the whole component in x and y direction in the coordinates of the origin of the xy direction of the screen. Now also what we'll do is that align the items with center. By this we can align the items in center, but beside aligning items we have to give a height of our component or the container. So I will give the height as, firstly I will give a minimum height. So I will write min height as, let's say, 100 vh, because it will take all the viewing height of the screen. Now we will save it. After saving it, let's head towards our browser and let's see if the changes take place. Okay, so congratulations if you are done with this thing, and up to this you have done a lot of things, that is a login with Spotify. Now let's hit this button and let's see what is going on, and let's see if we have done the work perfectly or not. So I will just hit the button, and obviously it will not work because we haven't given href for our anchor tag. So firstly we have to give a href. So href will done, that is it will redirect to the button to the auth url. I will give href, which is equals to the auth underscore url, that is when we click on the button it will hit us to the auth url only. And let's head towards our browser and try again with clicking or hitting the button. So I will click on the button and it is redirecting us towards the Spotify authorization. Now we can see an error, that is we have an invalid client or invalid redirect URI. Now what is the invalid redirect URI is because, let's see what we have passed in our invalid. Okay, so as you can see inside our URI I have passed http localhost 3000, and I hope you remember what we have given inside our Spotify account. So let's head towards our developers.spotify, and inside this Spotify account we have already passed our redirect URL. So maybe we have done something over there and we are not getting, so maybe we have done some mistake over there. Now inside our browser I will just simply head towards the dashboard, and dashboard, after heading towards the dashboard we will go to our application so that we can check what error or what mistake we have done actually over there. So after going to the dashboard we have to log in again, as because I have logged out to the application. So I will go to the login, and as I have said you will just head towards your application. So let it be login firstly, and then I have make the Spotify clone over here, and I think the client ID is perfect ending with 21. Yes. Now what we'll do is that we'll go to the edit settings and let's check what we have given. Okay, so as you can see there is the error we have given, that is the HTTPS, as the local host doesn't use the HTTPS, that is a secure connection. So what we will do, we'll remove this redirect URL, and I will paste a new redirect URL, and it is will be without that s, that is http localhost 3000, and then we'll simply add this. Now I hope our URL had gone okay. Now we have to just save it and let's head towards our browser, and I will go back to our localhost 3000 and I will refresh the whole page, and let's say check if our browser is working perfectly or not. So I will click on the button again. Now if I directly hit the button, let's see what happens. Now after refreshing, okay, so what it is doing is that I have logged in previously, so it is directly logging me in inside the application. And as we have given the redirect URL as localhost 3000, that's why it's giving us the login URL, and this code, this is the main code which by which we can define the alternative users. So I will just give you one demonstration that how it will look when we click. So let me just open a new incognito tab over here, and I will just paste the localhost 3000, and after clicking on login with Spotify here, let's see what the pop-up we are getting. So as you can see, we are getting the main Spotify login screen, and by this way you can just, if you have already a Google account logged in your browser, it will just give you that login with that name, and you can simply logged in. So after logging in, you will just redirect to this localhost 3000 and then a code parameter which will just give us the exact code which we will be needing or we will use for further instruction in our project. And by using this code, we can just authenticate the user and pass the request we actually wanted to make the user needed, and it will just help us to get or make a authorization token for each user separately, and we can play the song for each user in their own account. Now to use this code as an access token or with convert it as a token for the user, what we can do is that we can also use something from this Spotify clone, their document. We can also use the Spotify developers documentation also, but what will be more handy is that if we use a web API node for the Spotify. So this is something new which will came across, and I will just suggest you to head towards and search for Google, that is Spotify API node, and the first link that we are taking is that the npmjs.com, and let's head towards this npmjs.com for the Spotify node API, and we'll go to the home page of this, that is the GitHub page mainly, and where we can find how to use or how to just make the user authentication on and token for the user. And inside this page we'll simply head towards our Spotify web API node. As you can see, this is the main library which will be very helpful, and it will just give us a proper identification for authentication and the thing. Now I will search by pressing Ctrl F and for authorization, and let's head towards the topic with authorization. Okay, so here we have got the authorization thing. Now let's head towards the example we can get for the authorization. So if we just scroll way down here, so here is the code for the credentials and then the authorization code. So basically Spotify API dot authorization code grant, it is taking a code, and that code is what mainly that code is giving us the main expression over here, that is a refresh token, a access token, and the expired timing also, and it is also getting some client secret ID. So we can get the client security over here in our Spotify developers account, and that is, you can see the show client secret ID. By this way we can just get towards our function. Now to do all the things, we have to now get towards our server. Now as I must redirect you or I must renode you, that is to do this thing, that is to make the API token and access token, we have to make a server. And to make a server, which I can remind you to, let's come towards our VS Code, and you can see I have created a folder named server previously. I have made you in that the client and server two folders, and this server will mainly a node application, and which will help us to create a server and call the user authentication from there. And I will create a server.js file which will help us to get or create the server over here. Now we have to initialize a package JSON file inside our server also. So for that I will again open our terminal, and inside terminal I will just divide the terminal into two shells, let's say inside this terminal. And what we can do is that we can call the server. So to call the server, what we can do is that cd, we can just cd to the server file, and then inside the server what I can do is that npm init hyphen y, which will just initialize the package.json file inside our server.js or a server folder mainly. As you can see, the server package.json file has been initialized over here. If we open it, we can just get our version description and all. It is a node application created. Now we have to install some other thing also, that is the express also. Now inside our server what we can do is I can write npm, then again I, then express.js. I must ensure you that you should be familiar with the express.js or express with javascript, which will be a famous library to control the application via node. And then also you will install spotify, then web hyphen api hyphen node, which will be the main instruction to install this. So I have mistaken here for api, so make sure you spell it right, that is spotify web api node. Now let's hit enter, and it will take time, it will take some time to install these two modules or two libraries, and the version may be just upgrade in our in when you are showing or in your system. And also the spotify web api node have been installed. Now also we need to install one more thing, that is nodemon, which will just help us to automatically save and restart the server if we make any changes. So I will just write npm inside our terminal, and that npm will give us the ability to install the nodemon. Now the installation of nodemon has been successfully. Now I will just close the terminal over here, and let's start with requiring the all the modules in our server. So I will get the sidebar close, and then I will just start our server requirements over here. So I will get the constant. Now to get started with the server, firstly we can require constant and then express. This express will be equals to require then express. As you can see, tabline is helping us a lot to code faster, so that's why. And then we can again get a constant, and this constant will, this time I will just get the spotify web api. As you can see, now we will just require the spotify web api module. So I will give spotify then hyphen web api and hyphen node. So by this we have just required the module, and then we can use it. Now we have to make a constant app. Now I hope you are familiar with the node.js application, else you cannot understand how we are or this thing is working actually. So I will just give a small description over here. And to get started with our server.js, I have to firstly include all the things. So I will type the const express. I will initialize the express, and then I will require the express module over here. And then again I will just given one constant, and this time it will be spotify web api, and it will not require the anything from the file. It will just require spotify web api and then node. So by this way, tab9 is also helping us a lot to code faster in it. So I will just write code, oh sorry, this will be a constant and then constant app. So this app will mainly hold the express module over here for us, and then we can call it anytime when we want. And then we can just do app.post, and then it will post through the redirect url slash login. So if I just give slash login, and then it will take two response, that is one request and one response. And this request and response will be a fat arrow function, which will basically includes all our main spotify applications module. Now I will just once again simplify this for you, that is what it is or how it is actually working if you are not familiar with the node.js application. So firstly, in the line number 1, the const express, that is I have given a constant with name express, where I have required the whole express module, that is the express.js module. And then I have given a constant with spotify web api, where I am requiring the whole spotify web api with node module inside this. So basically you are initializing a variable express, and giving or putting the value of a express module, and also in line number 2 a Spotify web API where you are putting the whole API node value inside it. And then the module we have created, that is the express, we are just calling it as a function or then inside the app. Now we can simply get rid of all this till line number 4 and simply call the app. And dot post is basically if we post something inside our browser, we will give the post over here. And if we just get, we want to get some data from our browser, we will get over here. So post means, for example, let's say now if you are just curious about how all the things working and going on after the completion of this page or this file only, I will just express, or I will just understand you everything line by line after the post thing is work. Now I will make one constant inside this post. Okay, make sure you spell it right. And constant, I'll, let's say, Spotify API. So Spotify API will create a new Spotify API application, and this new Spotify is basically this class file. And inside this Spotify application, we will pass one object, and this object will conclude one redirect URL. This redirect URI is basically our localhost URI. So HTTP and then localhost, and then okay, so there will be HTTP colon and then a slash slash and then a localhost with colon then 3000. This will be the redirect URI, and then there will be a client ID which we have worked with previously also. This client ID will basically hold our main client ID. So I will copy the client ID from login.js. Let's copy the client ID over here. This is the F2 and up to this. Now I will just paste the client ID inside our server.js, and we'll also be handy with the client secret. Now in the client secret we have to pass the client secret. Now to get the client secret, head towards the dashboard. After making this, what we have to do, let's head towards our GitHub homepage, and what we have shown here, that is we have to make a code, that is you can see the code that's written as query parameter. So this code is basically the code we are getting inside our application after a login successful. So we have to get this code. So to get this code, we can write one thing is that we can just get over to the here, and then we can make a constant name with code, and then this constant will basically be request. It will just request our browser to our body, that is mean the URL, and our parameter with name code. So basically this will take the code inside the constant with code. And also let's see what are there, that is we are getting a Spotify authorization, and it is passing a promise, that is the then means it will just give us a promise inside the function as data. As this data will also take checks in for the expiring information or the time, the access token and the refresh token also. So to do this, what we will do, we just have to first create a new object over here. So inside this, now to work with the next part of this, we can just write the Spotify API, that is the Spotify API we have created, and we have to authorize it. So to authorize it, we can just say authorization code grant, and the tab name is helping a lot to make it more suitable, and I will pass the code. So this code will help us to check, and then it will dot, then it will just give the promise as we have seen in the our example, and then we'll receive the data, and this data will be a fat arrow function. This function will give us the access tokens, and to this I will just join all the data we have received through our code, and this res.join will basically be an object, and the object will be, let's say, data dot body. I have spelled it incorrect. So data dot body, then the is access, and then underscore token. So this will take the access token from the body, and then we can just do one thing, that is okay. So we have to join. I have been a mistake, that is the access underscore token will be a key which will take the data dot body, so it will be misspelled, and then access token will be like this. You can just simply give it like the access token over here, and then we have to make another key, that is a refresh token. So I will just give a refresh token over here, and this refresh token will get data dot body, and from the body it will then again get the refresh token, refresh underscore token. And one more is left, is that okay, so token, and there will be a comma, and then another thing is the expires in token, so expire expires in. So this expires in key will basically hold the data dot body dot the expires in. So by this way we have granted the three access tokens, and refresh token and expires in token. Now one thing is that, let's say if it catches some error, so we can say like dot catch, it will give us the error, and inside this catch we will just run a function, and this function will catch if the error is, if there is any error, it will just pass the error with the response code. So we can just send response dot send, and in send status I will, because it will send us the status as say 400, because 400 basically there will be a error in the response code. I will format the code easily, and by pressing Ctrl or Shift Alt F, and then we can save it properly. Now I will just explain a brief description about this, what we have done. That is basically we are getting the slash login parameters, and then we are passing all the redirect, and this is mainly hard coded and you should not do this, but for example I am doing it here. Now we can further transfer into in a env file to make it secure, and then we are getting the Spotify API authorization, that is we are passing the authorization process inside this Spotify API, and we are getting the code from the browser, and then we are checking the access token and the expires and refresh token, and if we get any error we are sending the status. Now if we head towards our login.js, here we have authorization tokens previously made. Now let's head towards the app.js, and inside this, as you can see, we are getting the code from the parameters. So to get the code here inside a variable, what we can do is that we can create a constant, and the constant will be named as, let's say, a code, and this code will be holding the new URL. So URL search params, this will basically hold anything from the URL parameters if we get. So URL params will take window dot location dot search. So it will basically search from the Windows location from the URL of the browser, and what will take, it will just get with anything with the name of code. So it will just take the value of the parameters with name code. By this way you can get hold of the value of the code or the exact code inside our variable code. Now we can make one new file inside our src, and that file we will just name as say dashboard.js, dashboard.js, and now we can just import it, and then the code is correctly formatted over here. Now I will save it, and then what we can do, we can set a condition that if the code is available, we can redirect the user to our dashboard screen, and if it is not, we can just redirect the user to the login button. So to do that, what we can do is that we can simply enwrap this login inside the second bracket, and you can ask for if the code is available, then it will redirect to the login screen. If the code is available, it will redirect to the dashboard screen. So I will just give the dashboard screen, and with the code I will pass to the dashboard screen, and with a self closing tag, and if it is not available, it will just redirect to the login screen. So make sure I have spell it right inside the dashboard. We'll paste it over here. And okay, so now there is a mistake, so I will just make it in single line so that it will work finely. Now let's see if our browser is working properly or not. Now after rendering it, what we can do, we can just head towards our browser and let's see. Okay, it's showing us some error and it is showing the semicolon is not defined. Okay, so we have done something mistake here. We can just give the semicolon over it and let's see if it is working properly or not. Okay, now you can see the dashboard is showing over here. Okay, there is some that is URL search param is not defined. Okay, so okay, there will be a s, make sure you correct it. It will spell as URL search params and we will save it and let's see. Now we are getting the dashboard. As you can see the dashboard text over here, as because the code is now available. Now we can just redirect the user inside this. Now if we just get rid of the codes and I will just hit the only localhost 3000, it will take us to the login with Spotify API. Now if I just click on the login with Spotify and on the button, we'll head towards our dashboard. Now it's very simple. We have logged in and we have get towards our dashboard. Now inside our dashboard.js, we can just receive the code over here by taking is an object and let pass the code inside this as parameter and let's save if it is printing our code over here and let it be refreshed properly and we can see the code is printing inside our browser. And now we don't want to print the code because we just want to set a logic for the user authentication over there. So for to do that, we'll use one custom hooks. So to use the custom hooks, I will create one file over here, that is use auth.js, which will be applicable to use the or which will be applicable mainly for the user authentication. So I will run RFC over here. RFC will basically give us the basic syntax of the React fragments. Now after this use auth is being used, we don't need in this that is the div or anything. We'll just have to run the functions inside the use auth. Now this use auth.js file will basically be responsible for checking each time the code is changed for each specific or individual clients or user. Now to do this, we have to first take the code inside our use auth also. So to take that code, we can just take it as a parameter and we can just run our server over here by checking this with a condition. So the constant will be, I will use some state to update the tokens, and basically the tokens will be updated within a change inside our browser for the code responsible. So this will not be codes, it will be code, and then inside the const I will just, let's say, access token will be there, and then I will set the access token, and this way I will use three state for access token, refresh token, and the expired token. Now I will use the use state over here, and initially it will be blank, and then I will again copy paste three times, and this time the second will be not the access token, obviously it will be the refresh token, and inside the set access token it will be also a refresh token. Let's say I will get refresh and then a capitalized T with the token, and then here comes the last one, that is the expires token. So I can say the expire and then the token over here, and inside the access token, and lastly I can just give one expire token. So we have done, what we have done is that we are receiving the code inside our use auth.js function, and we will check the code against these access token states. And what we can do to check this, we can use one use effect. I will just say use effect over here. So this use effect will basically take in all the input and it will give us the function. So it will take one fat arrow function, and this fat arrow function will give us some effect until and unless the effect will be take place when there is a change in the code array. So basically what I mean in this line is that when there is any change in the code, that is another user or some specific individual user come across, then there will be some effect going on for this each individuals. Now to check everything inside the use effect, what we have to do, we have to install something that is called the Axios. So install the Axios, what I will do, I will just change the directory to previous one, and inside the Spotify clone I will change the directory to our client, and inside the client I will npm I Axios. So Axios will mainly is responsible for checking anything from the server, or if you go to the documentation of the Axios, you will just learn perfectly what it is responsible for mainly. So I will take time to let it be installed in our browser and our mainly the package.json as a module, and then we can go with the use effect version over here. Now, after a successful installation of the Axios, what we can do, we can just import the Axios firstly. So for we have to import the use effect also. So let's see if you use the use effect over here inside the React, and then we have to import our Axios. So I will just import AXIOS Axios from Axios modules obviously, and then we can do the use effect function over here, and inside the use effect function it will just call the Axios and dot, it will post what it will post to the server. So what is the server? HTTP, then clone slash slash localhost. Cool. And why it is the thing is, okay, so I have spelled it wrong, and the thing is that which server we are going to post it is. So this is the server, the backend server. So as you can see, we haven't run our server inside any port. What we can do is that we can do app dot listen, and it will be listened to the port, let's say 3001. So this will be the port in which this server will actually run, and we can just head towards our dashboard dot or user auth.js, and we can give the URL 3001. That is in this port it will the server will basically run. After posting the thing, what we can do, we can simply pass over an object, and this object will include the code. This code will basically the code we are receiving. After receiving the code, what we can do, we can just pass a promise, and this promise will take the response. So this response will be a function parameter, and this parameter will give us a data. So I can just console log the data. So I can just do console.log and the res.data. So basically the data we are getting from our server, we want to just log the data inside our console and nothing else. And here it will be, I have missed a dot. So by this way you can just run this server. Now here we are getting some error. Okay, the error is that we haven't put the dot to configure the response. Now the basically the code what meant is that I will define you shortly. So basically in use effect, the all the effect will just run only when there is a change in the array of this code. So the code is basically the code we are getting, that is the unique code for each user that will logged in, and then once the code is being changed, then we are getting the axios.post. And when the code is being changed, we are affecting this, that is what we are going to do is this axios.post, that is inside this axios module we are posting, inside this Axios module we are posting, that is inside this URL on which our npm, that is the server, will actually start. I will make you start the server, then you can just visualize it how it will work. And also we are passing one object, that is our code. So by this way it is actually running, and then the response after it being run successfully, the response we are giving is that we'll just console log the data that is being passing. So the data will hold this access token, refresh token, and expired token also. Now to run the server, what I will do is that I will firstly save this page, and then I will go to server.js, and inside this server folder what I will do is that I will go to the package.json, and inside this script there is a start. You can just there it will give the start over here. I will give here, suppose say dev start, and it will just run our script. So I will give here nodemon server dot js. So basically, if we start the dev start command, it will just in or run this command, that is nodemon dot server dot js. Now I will just open the terminal over here and I will cd to our client folder, that is our server folder. So inside server folder I will run npm run dev start. So by this way it will just start our server inside the port we have mentioned in our server.js, that is 3001. So let's wait for the server to start in 3001. Now as you can see, the server has been started here fluently, that is you will just receive this kind of thing inside your console. Then you will make sure that your server has started. Now we will close the terminal and then we will head towards our dashboard. And inside dashboard, as we are printing the code also, now I will import that use auth over here. So I will just simply import that use auth.js file from our and then I will have to give the file location obviously. So I will give use auth, and then what we can do, we can just define a constant over here. Let's say the constant name as the access token. So this access token will what use the use auth, and inside the use auth we will pass the code we are fetching from the parameter. So by this way we can just console log the data, that is I will once again go to use auth and I will make sure that is it is mainly logging the data we are receiving through our response. So let's see in our browser what it is showing. Once again, let it be refreshed properly, and then the code actually get expired for some reason if we don't use it instantly. So I will just give it a start from. So let me just go to the inspect and let me watch the console. If any error are there, it will show us the error. Okay, so as you can see, okay, so let me head towards the console once again. There are some error, mostly that is runtime error. The message port was closed and then failed to load resources, uncaught error, network error. So basically we are not getting the log over here. Now I will fix it. Now we are getting the error, that is you can see localhost 3000 has been blocked by course. So it may sound very critical or very complex to solve, so it is not that what you really familiar with. So what we will do is that we close the server, and to handle the codes, what we will do, there is a package, that is we can like simply npm I cors codes. So this will simply install the codes for us. So I will just get inside the, you will simply write codes npm I codes, and it will install the codes module for us. And if it is installed successfully, you can see in the package.json, and it is installing now, as you can see. So after a successful installation, of course, what we can do is that we have to import. So to import, I will write a constant, the name course, and I will require the module with the name course over here, and I have to use it. So to use it, I hope you are familiar with the middleware things inside this node application. The middleware basically is used to use any kind of extra modifications we will just in middle in extra modifications we will just use in our applications. So I am writing here, that is app.use, and this will use the course over here with the function, with the initializing function, and by this way we can get rid of the error. So our server is still running, and I will just refresh this page and I will see if the error is gone or not. Because the error is gone. Now what we are going is that the 404 is not found. We are getting a status code with 404. Now because it may be happening because of the server cannot read the JSON format file output. So to give our browser the power or the ability to read the files, what we can do, we just have to use one more expression over here, that is I am using the app.use express.json. This will basically use the JSON format of this application, that is it will give the ability to the browser to read the response we are getting in the format of JSON. Also, I have console log the error. That is, if we face some error, it will obviously be logged inside our server. So the server is still starting. Let's say if we are still getting any error or not. So I will just do one thing. I will hit from the first beginning. So I will refresh the browser from localhost 3000 and I will log in with the Spotify, and let's see we are getting a response or not. I will just log in and let's see if we are getting the object over here. So if we check in the console of our browser, let's say, okay, so there is still an error, that is request failed with the status code 400. Now what we'll do, that I have just make an argument here, that is we will console log the error that is we are getting inside our console. So I will just take a look over. So you have to scroll over and it is getting that authentication error, as because the error code is already, because the code has expired, so we have to again log in over here. Now to log in again, we will just head towards the localhost 3000 firstly, and with the login with Spotify button I will log in again so that we can generate a new code and for authentication. And still we are getting the error, so let's see what is the error we are facing. Okay, so it is saying the res.join, so it should be res.json. That's why we are getting the error. So if I just save it and again if I refresh the page, let's say what we are getting inside our console. I hope now we can get the object of our responses. So it is still getting the bad request. So let's see what is the bad request we are getting. Okay, so we have to ensure that we use the body parser. So you have to firstly install one, that is the command inside their server file folder, that is npm I body parser, and then I have included it over here in line number 5. So this is an alternative for express.json. If express.json works in your system, it's okay, else you can use the body parser. So I will use over here app.use. I will use the app.use and then body parser, that is the module we have included, and I will spell it right, that is the body parser over here, and caps p, then the parser, and then we have to make it as a function. Also we have to write body parser.json, else it will not work. And one another module, that is this body parser url encoded and extended true, we are passing with an object so that our header can receive a url encoded if we run our API. Now let's hit the enter and then restart our server. Our server have started automatically. Now we will refresh the Chrome browser and let's see if we are getting our proper needed thing or not. So inside our browser, now we will click on the login with Spotify button again, and to generate a new code for me, and let refresh the console, and then we can see our access token. So this is what I was trying to get, because without this we cannot update our the state, that is the access token you can see in the console. I will just zoom in once so that you can, it is visible for you. You can see this access token, refresh token, and also giving us a expire in 3600 second. That is much time to get expire in. So we have to find a way to manage all these things. That is, you can see here the access token with a key, and we have to find a way to manage all these tokens so that we can use the or verify the user and give them the functionality they are actually wanting to or working with that. Now there is also one thing I want to make sure that, for example, suppose the token has been expired. For example, what I meant to say is that the code has been expired. So in that case, we should not be able to, or we should not use to redirect the user into this page. So to handle that case, what I will do, I will just firstly close the terminal, and I will zoom in once so that it will be visible, and then I will head towards the use auth. So inside use auth, we have some work to do to handle this error. To handle this error, what I will do is that after the promise, I will just I will catch the error, and inside this error, I will pass a function, a callback function, which will redirect the user. I will say window.location which will be equals to our root location. So by this, so if our location, if our code has been expired, the user will be just throw to the main login page, and then the user can get with that. So as you can see, we have an error, the login code has been expired, so we have been redirected to the login with Spotify. Now if I click again, then I will be redirected to the code page, and then we are getting the object as well. Now we will have to pass a way or find a way to manage this. So, and one another issue you can find is that the user can see or have the access with the code. So this is not a familiar way to work with the thing. That is, the user must not have the access to code, or he or she cannot find this code. So to get rid of this, what I will do is that inside our auth.js, use auth.js, what I will do, I will send one function inside the promise we are getting. So after console log, what I will do is that window dot history. So this will just help us to clear the URL, that is a code, dot push state, and inside the push state we will give a blank object and then a null. So this will basically clear it will basically clear inside the main root. So window dot history, so I have spelled it long, window dot history dot push state, and I will give it a null object and then a null specifier parameter and within the root of the object. Now if I refresh it, let me just refresh this page, and in we have the access code or the login token has been expired. So I will log in again, and if I logged in again, we can see the code has been gone. So now we are getting the localhost 3000 but with the dashboard page also, and we have the access with the token in our console also. Now we are done with most of the thing. Now what is left is that I will just remove this console.log, and here we have to just update the state over here. Now firstly I will set the access token. So as you can see inside line number 5 we have the access token. So I will set the access token as this dot data. So inside this we will just head towards the data and we'll get the access token from here. By this way we can set or we can update the access token variable, and then I will copy paste it 3 times, and then I will set the second one, that is the set refresh token. If I just simply set the refresh token like this, and then this time it will be also refresh token, and after the lastly will be the expired token. So I will give the set expired token and also the res.data dot expire in. So it will be expires in. By this way we can just update, and also in the end we will return the access token over here. So after this the code ending, I will like to return only the access token, that is from our use state. The access token is basically the first token we are giving here as a constant. So I will just copy and paste it over here. Now as I have mentioned you that we were getting the access token, refresh token, but inside the access token I have mentioned one thing, that is the time mentioned, that is 3600 second, which is approximately a 1 hour token exactly. So it is very awful to use the Spotify for 1 hour and then again log in for to generate a new access token or new code. So it will be very unusual user experience for the Spotify application if anyone use it. So to get rid of this and to manage this kind of state, we can use something more or of our own to make a code, custom code. So we have to make this in our auth.js, so that for that thing we will use a refresh token, that is the server can automatically refresh with a new token, and then it will just update the expires time, so that the user don't have to worry about to expecting, that is I or he or she have to update or log in the app after every 1 hour. So now we'll just head towards our auth.js file. to do that, we'll just head towards our new file, and also the server will be used for this to refresh it. And but we cannot do anything inside the user side, so that the user just experience a bad early response from the website, so we have to expect or depend on the server to refresh it. So to do that, we have to update something inside this file only, the auth.js. Now to do that functionality, we can use one more use effect here. So I will just write here the one more use effect, and inside this use effect, what I will do, I will pass again the function, and this function will only execute or call when there is a change inside the refresh token, and else ও ফেটো আসতে কথা বল। So when there is a change in refresh token, we will execute this function. Also when there is a change in the expires token, so if I change the expired token, so that is basically if the token has been expired, so it will basically change the token, and then this function will execute. So to execute this function, we also have to create one thing over here, post. So inside this, I will create another post in the server. So I will just head towards our server.js, and inside this server.js, I will create another functional component, that is app.post. So I will just give app.post, and it will head towards that slash refresh. So if you want to refresh the user, we will do one thing is that we will just redirect him or her to this, to the localhost 3000 slash the refresh, or localhost 3001 basically, because the server is running on 3001 in the development server. So I will just make it as a function, and then it will hold the functional components. Inside our refresh post function, what we can do is that we can create a constant with name refresh token again. This refresh token will actually hold the refresh token from body. So what I can do is that I can request the token from the body, and then what will be this, the refresh token. By this I can save it, but there is one thing is that if we just head towards to the API of the GitHub page of the Spotify, then here is the one thing that this function mainly specify how to refresh a token for a user. So to pass it, we have to just specify the body expires token and access token by the same we have done in the login. So I will copy the first part, that is the Spotify API over here, and I will paste it after this refresh token inside our refresh. Now we have to run our refresh token function. So to do that, what I will do, I will just simply copy the whole thing, that is the Spotify API refresh token access, and I will paste it over here. By this way we can just simply apply the access token refresh. Now to do such thing, we don't have to just write a lot of code like this. What we can do, we can just get rid of this function, and I can this fat arrow function I can use over here, so it will just look simpler, and I can simply console log the data over here rather than console logging all the thing. And then I will just get rid of this function error, and what I can do is that I can catch the error over here. To catch the error, I have to just simply close this function, and by this, and I can catch the error. And inside the catching error, what I will do, I will simply pass the response status, as I have done inside the login API also. So inside the login API, I will just simply send the response status code. So I will simply send over here the response.status. The same thing will go over here too. You can see the catching way is both in the same as in the above token. So I will simply console log the data, and this function will simply refresh the token for us. And let's refresh in the browser. Before heading towards the server, also what we can do is that we have to mainly get the data.body, so that we can get the exact information and save it. Now one thing we have to do in the use auth, that is we have to specify the thing for this use effect also. So I can simply copy the use effect for our previous thing. So I will just copy the axios over here, and it will just go the same way like it before, and I will paste it over here. And inside the axios, Now this time the API will be rather than login, it will be refresh. So basically these are the APIs we have created in the server, and now we will pass the refresh token rather than passing the code, because it will hold the refresh token. Now inside this response or the promise, we don't need all the thing. I just simply comment this out, and I will, if it catching an error, it will simply redirect. And then let me refresh to the browser and let me test. So I will refresh it once, and then I will log in with the Spotify again, and I will click on the button. Let's say it is now generating the code again for us, and let's check inside our console if it is printing anything for us. So I will just head towards our browser or the VS Code, and here it will print some response for us. Let's see what it is printing. So as you can see, but we are not getting our desired output inside our browser. So let's check if we have done any mistake. So let's head towards the server. So I will get just close this unnecessary folders I have opened. So inside the browser, okay, so we haven't passed our refresh token over here, so I have to pass because it will not get the refresh token. Then I will save it also in or use auth.js. I will just comment this out again, and then I will save, and let's start the server. Let's click on the login with Spotify again and check inside our VS Code terminal that if it is generating anything or not. Now our work is mainly depending on the access token and the expire scene only. So I will just close this terminal and head towards in our server.js, and here we have, rather than consoling the data, what we can do, we have to let's pass this data. So as we have done inside our login, that is the res.json part, will simply do this again. So I will just copy this part, and inside the data I will simply pass this, that is the res.json. That is, I will just take the response and send the JSON file over there. So inside this JSON, what I will do, I will say the access token as data.body.access token, and the expression, we don't need the refresh token over here. Now if we head towards our auth.js, and here we just simply set the access token and the expires token only, because we don't need this refresh token. So inside the auth.js, what we will do, so inside the auth.js, what we'll do is that we have to just get the access token and the, sorry, the refresh token and the access token. We don't need this access token more. I will just delete this thing because we have worked with only the refresh and expire token only. Now if we just set this data and just save all the things, now go to the browser and let log in with Spotify, and let's see what it is going or giving us the code or not. Okay, so it is giving us the code, and let's wait for it to refresh properly. Okay, so it is again going to the actual path route, so there must be a problem. Let's check. So the problem must be with the server only. Okay, so we are getting everything, we are passing the refresh token also. What is the problem then? Okay, so actually the thing is, our refresh code is running after this login code. What we can do is that we can set a condition for our use effect to work inside our auth.js. So to do this inside our auth, what we can do, to for the refresh inside the use effect, we can just write if we don't have any refresh token, or we don't have any exp expired token, then only it will return, else it will just run this mm, whole code. So if we just head towards our browser and let's say log in again with the Spotify, let's check if it is not going to the root again. So it is now rendering the application in dashboard properly. Okay, so the now error has been gone. Okay, so the now error has been gone. As you can see, we have in the dashboard page. Now it is perfectly working. We have no error in the console. Let's check in the console inside our terminal. There is also no error inside the console. Now that we have came too much about this far, now one thing also is being written, that is, we want to make sure that the refresh token just refresh up small second before the expired token has been expired, because if we just refresh the token instantly when the expired token has been existing or going to expire, that is not the correct time. So I will just make sure it will refresh just a second ago the expired token has been expired. So to do that, I will give a constant with a timeout. So inside timeout I will do what is that I will set interval. So this set interval will do what is that it will just repeatedly try this, or the function it will repeatedly do if we just set an interval. For example, suppose if I just give one function here, and if I set the interval as 3000, that is every 3 seconds this function will call by the set interval. So by that way, so inside this function what I will do is that I will simply pass the whole thing, and I will paste the thing after here. Now this whole thing will be intervaled by this, but it is not will be in 3 seconds. That is, I will catch the expired token here, and expired token will then be calculated. Suppose say the expired token I will just subtract a 60 from here, and I will convert into my millisecond by multiplying 1000 into it, so that we can just get this much of millisecond over here, and then every each interval our refresh token will be get refreshed. Then I can also return the clear timeout, as because it doesn't just clear. So if there is any timeout, because let's say refresh token is refreshing but we don't actually need that token, so in that case I will just return a function, and this function will hold the clear token or clear timeout. In this time the clear timeout will take the timeout constant only. So let's check if it is working or not. So to if as if it is valid for 1 hour, what we'll do is that I will simply change the expired token over here, let's say as 61 second, and also the expired token over here in our set expired token inside our refresh also for 61 second, let's say. Also I will go to the login, and here I will also set the expired token, that is 61 second. And to test it more frequently, what I can do is that inside our server.js, inside the refresh, I can just do a console log. So I will just do console log, and let's say I will just console log a refresh now. Okay, so by this way, if I save it and if I just run the console, and then if I just log in again with my server, so let's see in our VS Code if it is just printing the high in each second or not. So after a successful login, let's head towards, now you can see it is just consoling or logging the value, that is refresh now, and by this way it will just simply refresh our each time the code will run. Now as you can see it is just printing the thing only once, but that is not should be work. So I forgot to mention it, that is we have make it a set interval but we haven't make it a function. So I have done is that I have put a fatter function over there, and inside this function it will just include all the thing, and then it inside the function it will just take. So I can just zoom out once, so you will be very familiar with the expression. Now you can see the const timeout is a function the set interval is taking in, and inside this function I am passing all the axios post, and then the expired token is been calculated, and inside the clear timeout we'll just clear the interval, and then it will take the timeout. Now let's say if I refresh the browser and it will if I log in again, let's see what happened now. So if I log in with Spotify now, and I have went to the dashboard page, now we can see each second the refresh now will print it. After I logged in once, then it is just continuously printing the refreshing text inside the console, as because we have set the interval and we have passes as a function inside all the process of Axios, and I have given 1000 for the second. Now I can just edit it as we were doing previously. I can give the expired token inside it, and then we can just calculate, like if I put the expired token minus 60 and then which will be multiplied by 1000. By this way, if we save it again and let's see if it is refreshing again and it is printing. So I have to logged in once. I will just log in with Spotify again and then it will generate the code, and let's head towards our console. Now it is again giving us the refreshing one by one in each second. And now as if we have created all the thing and tested, now we will just remove the console log and close the server.js over here. And as we have, don't worry about the authentication because we have most of the thing in our use auth only. So I will close the use auth because we have done with the use auth. Now we have to just style our dashboard.js over here. Now inside our dashboard.js we have to just style it properly. Now what we'll do is that we'll import the container from Bootstrap. So I will import container from Bootstrap, from React Bootstrap. Okay, now we have to give the style. So I will just give rid of this return statement and I will paste the container, and inside this container we have a form. We have to need a form. So I will give a form, and we basically I am doing to make a search bar. So I will give the form control, and this form control will be a self-closing tag in which I will pass the placeholder, and the placeholder and then we're going to make a on change function. So I will give on change of this value inside the search bar. So on change, one change, what will we do, we will set up a function. So this function will initially take the value within the e, and this e I will give a fat arrow function, and this e will set our search. Now before initializing this, I will just initialize the hooks, that is the use state, the state hooks we will be using. And inside this state hooks, what I can do is that I can simply write constant search and a set search over here, which will be initially blank. So inside the use state it will be initially blank. Now we can just give the set search, and I will give e dot target dot the value inside the search bar we are actually giving. After that you have to also set up the value, initial value. So I will give the value which will be equals to the search, obviously, because we have the state named as search. Now this search will be put it here, and I will just manage the contents properly, and then I will format the place. Okay, now also you have to import the form. Okay, it is imported already, and we have used the use state, so everything is okay right now. Now what can I do is that we can make or give, or firstly let's test run inside browser, and I will log in inside the dashboard. Let's say what you can see. Now before checking in the browser, I want to make some styling. So inside the container, what I can do is that I can give a style over here, and this style is basically okay. So rather than giving the container a style, what I can do, I can give a overall body background color. So let's head to in the public, and in the index.html I will give the style to our main body. So I will give the style over here, that will be equals to, now I can say the background, not the background color, and I can give linear gradient to 45 degree of these two color. So I will just save, and then inside dashboard I will also save this. Now let's head towards our browser and let's see if it is rendering or not. So as you can see, the background color is rendering properly with the button. What I can do is I can give a Spotify logo over here. So I will go to the images in Spotify, and I can just take a logo over here. I can take the first logo. So what we can do, we can just copy the image address, and we can head towards our So now for the reference of login, the dashboard page we have created. Now you can see the login screen is now looking very good. If I log in with the login with Spotify, and then we can have the search bar here over here, and then we can have the songs over here. And now I have to create a bottom container. So to create a bottom container, I will just head towards our dashboard.js, and after the div of the songs, what I can do is that I can create a div. So inside this div, let me suppose write bottom only, and this will be automatically put inside the bottom. So as because we have given the grow as 1, so as you can see here, the song and the bottom container is here. And now it's time to use the web API node again. So to use that inside our client, what I can do, I will just stop the server, and after stopping the server, I will cd to our client, and I will cd to the client folder, and after that I will just write npm I and then Spotify, as we have installed it earlier, web, and then hyphen API, then node. So I will just get time to install and get it installed in our package. By then we'll get start to our next module, and then when the installation is success, we can just run our server again. I will cd to the server, then I can run the npm, and till the server runs, what I can do is that I can import it over here. So to import, we have already the import statement in our server, so I will copy it from there in our server.js. What we have done previously, we have imported the API, Spotify web API. So I will just copy this, and inside dashboard I have to paste it, but we have to modify. That is, we can simply write import the Spotify web API, but instead of require, what I can do, right, from this location or from this module. And then we have to call this thing. So inside our server.js, we have done previously, we have called the thing. Now we would require one use effect over here. So I will simply import the use effect, and will inside the function will use the use effect. So before return statement, I will use the use effect over here, and inside this use effect I will call the function, and this function will only gets called when there is a change in our access token. So I will pass the access token over here, and if there is change in the access token, what we'll do is that firstly, if it will check if there is no access token, then only it will do what is that, it will return the function, it will not do anything. And then it will firstly call the Spotify API, that is, we have initialized firstly the constant, the Spotify, the API, and then Spotify API dot set access token. Now we have used one more use effect over here, and for the previous use effect, the set token, we have given the access token, and inside the second use effect, what we are doing, we are calling the use effect only if there is a change in our search input and there is a change in the access token. So in the search input, when there is a, so previously we are searching, or we are setting a condition, that is, if no search or if no access token is being there, we have made a new state over here. We'll pass this as blank array, that is the search result we will be receiving. Now let's come to the point, that is, if the search or access token is being changed, what we'll do, the Spotify.api search is it will just do what is just search the tracks. So this is an inbuilt function in this the Spotify API. It will mainly search the tracks, and we will pass the search result by using this search value inside it, and then it will return as a promise. This promise will consider all the result, and we have mainly console the data. Now inside our browser, I have searched for this text, and by the time I have searched, it has given me the result. So inside this result, I will go to the body, and inside body I will go to the tracks, and these tracks are containing the items. So each items has the result of search the albums, the artist name, the available markets on the, also the name of the album, and the pictures of the album, the track number and everything, also the URLs. So we can just print this all data over here in the song playlist, and then we can go towards our bottom play button. Now inside our Spotify search tags, what we have done is that we have firstly set the search result. So we are mainly updating the array inside the search result, and then inside the array what we are doing is that the res.body.tracks.items we are mapping through it. Now let's see what is this thing. Now we are going to this res.body.tracks.items, and then in the item is containing this number of arrays, and we have to just loop through this array. That's why I am mapping through that array, that is the items array. And firstly we are holding the track of each items, and then each track is equals to, then we are initializing a function. After that we have to get the image of that album or that track of music. Now track means I am basically specifying the music, and then to take the image what we can do is that the image have three heights, as you can see, 164, 1300 and 640. Now we have to take the smallest height only, as because we have to, it will render fast. Then to take the smallest height, what I am doing is that the constant smallest height, smallest album image is the function, or is the main actual thing which will actually track the album dot image. So track dot album dot image is basically, I will show you what it is. Let me take it to the good position to be viewable, and inside this Chrome you can see inside the image we can track dot album dot image. That's why I have given track dot album dot images, and then I am reducing it to a function that is, say, a smallest and an image. Now if I am setting a condition, it is now very easy to understand, nothing is complicated over there. Basically I am getting the image from the API, and all the images I am just looping through it, and then I am getting to reduce it in a smallest size. That is, I am choosing the only smallest size of image from that. Now if the image dot height is lesser than the smallest dot height, I will just take the image and then return the smallest image. Now I will get the track.album.images 0. That is why I am getting the 0th images, that is the first image, and by this way we are just getting the smallest image. If it is not available, then the largest only. Now after that I am returning the artist key. I am returning just a basic object from line 35 to 40. You can see the artist is mainly the track.artist with the 0 name, that is the first. If I just open the artist array over here, you can get this. Firstly the first 0th element is holding all the thing, that is name, ID. So basically we need the name only, so then the name, and then the title. So track dot name will holding the title, and then the URI is basically holding the track URL. So by this way we can just get track of everything, that is artist, title, URI, and lastly the album URL is also passing. So how the album URL is passing, that is smallest album image dot URL. So exact that image we are focusing on, that is the height or size of the image, and only that image URL we will get inside the album URL key. So by this way we can just update the array of the set search result array, and then we can get all the things. Now don't worry about the code, I will just pass all the code once in the last video, and you can just head towards the last notes lecture and you can get through that. Also I will paste in this video the code for this much only. So if we just come to a dashboard, now what we can do is that there is a problem, that is if we just search and we are getting the result as it is we are wanting to, but there is maybe a delay of getting result, that is the later result might be came after a delay, and we just cannot fetch all the details instant the time of searching it. But to get rid of this, to avoid this or to fix this problem, what I can do is that I have initialized a let cancel equals to false. This variable cancel is initialized initially false, a boolean variable, and then in line number 26 we are checking if cancel is true, then it will just return. If cancel is true, then it will just return out of this function. But if it is not, then it will just set the result, and inside set result it will just set all the items we have previously introduced. That is, it will map through or loop through the tracks it will get the images, it will get the images size, smallest image, then it will give the artist, title, URI and album. Then only you can just return the cancel equals to true. Now here comes the conclusion, that is to how can we just maintain all the things inside our result component or in the songs list. So to do that, what we have done is that I have mapped through or looped through the search result array or the search result array we have initially given to our state. So inside this search result array, basically the from the previous function we are just updating the array of search result with the song list with album, and now we are fetching or we are looping through that array and we are getting a single track. Now we are rendering one component named as track search result, and this track search result will include one track, one key which will be unique identity, and then one choose track. We are passing this and we will receive this inside this component as a props. Now we have to create this component, that is track search result.js, inside our src folder. Then we can make our design our component over there. So to make the component, I will head towards our src and I will simply make one component with that name, that is track search result.js, and inside this component we can just simply do rfc to get the initialized syntax, and by this way we can just export. Now we have to import this inside dashboard to use it properly. Now what I will do, I will copy this and I will go to the top and I have to import this file. I will say import track search result from the location, that is track search result.js. By this way we can get use of this file. Now inside dashboard I will just comment this choose track because it will be a function we will be using when we will be clicking on the track. Now let's head towards the track search result component, and inside this search result component what I have made is that I have considered the props, that is track and choose track, and for now just forget this function handle play. I have used this for further choices. And now this track and choose track will do what is that, firstly we will render. So what we will render is that it will be a specific component for each song. So let's visualize, like the song banner or the poster image will be on the left, and then on the right side there will be a beautiful name of the song, and after that there will be the artist name. So by this way we can just create the each song name, and then we will just see apply css. Other one we are going to it. Then what are we doing in the return statement? So in the return statement basically we are passing this whole div. So this div is mainly the container we are passing, and this container having a class name, firstly deflex, that is it will just align all the content inside it in the position with the vertically. So in vertical position it will just place the image, then the name, and after that the title or the artist title. By this way what we're doing is that we are giving a margin of 2 between each song name or each song titles, and then we are aligning the items in center. So by this way we are just compromising everything inside a center part so that it looks nice in the user interface. And then I am giving a style of cursor to pointer, because whenever we'll be clicking on it the cursor must be a pointer, because no user will not notice that this song or this component is a clickable component. Then we are giving a border bottom of 2 pixels solid of the color code of hash tdd. You can use anything on your play, and then we are giving the on click function. Now for now the hand play considered is a blank function because I haven't initialized anything inside the function, but on click has to be there because on clicking on it, it should open a new modal or new component which will appear as the music player button, and then the lyrics of the song in the place of the song's album. By this way we can just handle it, and then this process is basically holding everything inside it, and then comes the image. So this image is getting the source from the track.album url. The url we are passing from our dashboard.js basically. So style is equals to the image style. So we are getting the image style from the smallest size only. That's why I have given 64 pixel only. I am not giving a large size because we have to render lot of songs inside this low level component, and I am giving a margin right of 12 pixels so that there is a gap specified between the image and the artist name and the song name. Obviously it will look nice. And then we are giving a class name inside, and come to the next step, which we are having a class name of ml3. So ml3 means it will be margin left 3. It will obviously getting a margin left. And then what we're doing is that inside this component or this div, we are passing the track title and the track artist. The track title means the music name, and the track artist means the by which artist it has been sung. So that's why we are passing the font size of the track title, that is the track name, as big and the artist name as low. So we are passing is like 18 pixel for the track title, and then the color will be hash ff, that is a normal white color. So nothing else with it. Basically we are just passing two style, a font size and a color inside the track title. And then comes the track artist. So inside track artist we are passing class name, and that is of f5, that is the font size will be of size 5. And then the style, that is the color of say hash tdd, because it should be a muted text type, because the artist is negligible over there. People will mainly go to the song. But if you just search about the artist of, just say if we search Justin Bieber, then it will suggest all the songs according to it. As you can see, I have opened in my browser. Now if I just search anything, let's say if I say Justin over here, now Spotify API will give me the Justin Bieber songs and according to the albums. Now by this way we can just, this is a scrollable component, we can scroll in infinitely into the all the results. So you can just say all the song we will get inside this search bar. As you can see, I have applied the border bottom and it is looking nice. Now you can just apply anything what you want over here. You can give a box shadow, and I will let you know how to apply those things. After all, if I get just the music player ready, then we can go with that. Now you can search anything with that, it will give us the result. Also you have the cross button to clear the search result. Now to handle the click of each track, what I can do is that we have to pass a function that is handle play. So on clicking, we are passing this function, as I previously told, this handle play. Now this handle play will do what is that, it is simply choose the track we are wanting to play. So I am passing this choose track from the parameters, and this choose track is basically will be a function which will just choose the track. We are passing this choose track again with a track. Now we will receive this choose track inside our dashboard. Now to play a specific song, what we are going to do, that we are going to install one thing, and inside the React application, that is npm I React Spotify web playback. So this will be the module to play our song. So I will simply install this module and wait for it to install in our package JSON file. Now until it install, what I can do is that we can just place a proper thing for the player. Now what I can do inside the dashboard over here, we can just place the player thing component over here. So what I will just make one component, let's say name player, and I will self close it. So to make this component, what we have to import, so rather than importing, firstly we have to make that component. So inside here I will do one component player.js. So this will basically hold the playback, all the part of this. That the simple thing is the music player. So I will do rfc, and this rfc will obviously give us the basic React component syntax. Then I have just exported the basic syntax, and firstly use import the useState and useWeb, because we are going to use that. And then in the next step, what you have to do is that import Spotify player from React Spotify web playback. Now these features may be available to you in premium Spotify or free Spotify. It doesn't give it freely all the time, so you may have to the access of Spotify player for the premium version, otherwise you cannot have that. Now we have to this constant, that is we are giving the state, as play and set play. So this will just basically play and set play by the use of track URI. So track URI is the URI or the track URL we will be passing through our player card or this player component from inside our dashboard.js, and from that dashboard.js we can just pass the track URL of the particular song we are going to play or we are going to access. Now we are going to show that if the access token is not available, then it will just return null. But if it is available, then it will return our Spotify player. That so by giving this function inside our at dashboard.js, we can just get played to the playing track, and all the things will be played. Now we have to make sure you have the premium version, else the playing button will not be rendered over here. So we will just log in with Spotify and then go to the browser. We'll just we'll just log in with over Spotify and you are good to play all the songs. I will provide the whole code, and I would like to conclude this project over here. Congratulations everyone that you have learned to make a Spotify and React hooks and custom hooks fully understandable. Thank you. Good luck.